Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Fran, and today I would like to talk about repeating patterns in your life. If you feel like you're stuck in Groundhog Day and you keep attracting the same people, types of relationships, failures, behaviors, then this video is for you. Take a look at your life, traveling backwards in time. Do you keep attracting the players? Do people love you and leave you? Do you get taken advantage of? Do people lie to you or cheat on you? Do you keep losing money, failing in business, attracting people and circumstances that keep you stuck in your current reality? If that is the case, it's no coincidence. It's not a matter of being unlucky or cursed. The reason is much simpler and more rational once you know how the mind works to shape the reality in which we live. You see, I used to attract the same relationships over and over again. The thing is, from a superficial perspective, they all looked very different. The people were different, the circumstances were different. Yet in time, they all wound up behaving in the same way. It baffled me because on a rational level, I knew that I was searching for the exact opposite of what I was attracting. And I also knew that I didn't deserve the treatment. Yet one thing that I couldn't ignore was the fact that I was the only common denominator. And that the same people would behave differently with other people. The problem with this realization is that it's easy to go into self-blame, shame and guilt, which ironically is exactly what attracted these behaviors in the first place. It's a catch-22, a sort of self-reinforcing mechanism. It took me a long time to realize how the mechanism works and how to change it. And I'm doing this podcast in the hope that it can spare you the time and suffering that I had to waste and endure in order to come to the understanding that I have today. Of course, this applies to all areas of your life, not just relationships. A friend of mine keeps starting businesses and going bankrupt, losing money, losing jobs, being cheated by business partners. He thinks that he's unlucky and destined to be poor, but what he doesn't know is that he's holding a limiting belief about money. When he was little, he was badly beaten up by his father for spending too much money in an amusement park. After a day of great fun, he came back home to be beaten to a pulp. From that moment on, he developed this core belief that having money will cause you pain and suffering, that money is the root of all evil, that rich people are bad, and so on and so forth. Of course, on a rational level, he doesn't know this. He can see that rich people live an easier life, but he cannot help himself. The subconscious mind always wins, especially when we are not aware of our limiting beliefs. So the first thing that we need to understand and accept is that the external reality is a mirror, an illusion. It mirrors our core beliefs about life. From quantum physicists to biologists to spiritual teachers, they all agree on this one concept. Consciousness comes first, then comes reality. To cite but a few, the world is not as it is, but as we are. William James, who is now considered to be the founding father of modern psychology. The only things that we perceive are our perceptions. George Berkeley, philosopher. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Mahatma Gandhi. Everything that seems to be plurality is merely a series of different personality aspects of this one thing produced by a deception. Erwin Schrödinger, quantum physicist. When we measure something, we are forcing an undetermined, undefined world to assume an experiential value. We are not measuring the world, we are creating it. Niels Bohr, one of the founding fathers of quantum mechanics and the Copenhagen interpretation. Everyone is you pushed out. Neville Goddard, spiritual teacher from the 1940s. All of us are prisoners of our early indoctrination, for it is hard, very nearly impossible, to shake off one's earliest training. Robert Heinlein. Now, I don't agree with the latter part of this last quote, and I will explain why shortly, but it does point to the origin of our core beliefs, which is childhood programming. And it may be impossible to change our earliest indoctrination if we remain unaware of it. But once we expose our programming, once we see the underlying pattern of our relational style, then it's a piece of cake to change it. All it takes is to notice when it comes up and to change our interpretation of it, create a new narrative, a new story. You don't even need to believe a story at first. It doesn't even matter how stupid it sounds initially. Just entertain a different scenario in your head for why people behave as they do. As you stop reacting automatically to the emotional triggers in your life and start reinterpreting them in a different way, reality will begin to shift and adapt. You see, you might ask, if this was a traumatic and unpleasant event in my childhood, why on earth would I continue to reproduce it throughout my adult life? The reason is simple. We reproduce these scenarios because we want to create a different outcome for them, and therefore resolve the initial one. The problem with this approach is that the arrow of causation actually runs in the opposite direction. We don't change reality in the physical world, but we do so in the realm of consciousness. You see, consciousness is more fundamental than physical reality. All reality is created inside the mind. As any biologist or quantum physicist will tell you, there is no reality outside of our perception. So if you want to change the world that you experience out there, you need to change your perception of it first. I know that it feels counterintuitive, and many may feel delusional by assuming the opposite of what they see and experience out there. But remember, what you see and experience as real only feels real because you are looking at life through the lenses of your core beliefs, and these beliefs are not absolute. In fact, they're not even yours. They were passed on from the previous generations. So challenge what you see, challenge what you believe, challenge your interpretation of facts. I can assure you, it is not the only one. People who interpret reality differently achieve different outcomes. Have you ever heard of the age-old question, if a tree falls in a forest and there is no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? The question may strike you as philosophical BS, but it's actually really easy to answer it from a purely scientific biological standpoint. And the answer is an obvious, resounding no. If you know anything about sound, you will know that sound is nothing but vibrations carried by the air and perceived by our eardrums, then translated into noise by a specific center in the brain. In other words, no brain, no sound. The brain transforms air disturbance into sound. We don't observe the world, we create it. So you see, we are used to see our 3D, our physical reality as fundamental and our perceptions as derivative from it. In actual fact, it's the opposite. Perception is fundamental and reality is just an illusion created by perception. Now you might ask, how can I affect other people's behavior with my internal beliefs? I understand these questions all too well because I've asked them myself, and the answer I've come up with is separation is another illusion. Think about it. If perception creates reality, then it creates everything in it, not just inanimate or non-human objects. I know this will challenge your rational mind and ego, and you might even feel a deep repulsion for this explanation. But stay with me. You've tried your way your entire life, and how has that worked out for you so far? So I challenge you not to take my word for it, but to try it out and experiment with it in your everyday life. I have nothing to gain from it, and you have nothing to lose from it. So why not give it a try? I repeat, you don't change reality in the physical world. You change it from the inside out. And how do you change your story? By coming up with alternative and unusual explanations for why things are happening in a certain way in your life. I'll give you a silly example. You text the person that you're interested in and they don't reply straight away. What is your automatic knee-jerk response or interpretation for it? The only one that feels real or like the truth or the more plausible one. Now, if your self-concept tells you that you're not worthy or not good enough, it will probably be something like they're not interested in me, and they're just ignoring my text. But believe it or not, there are thousands of different explanations for the same fact. They are just as plausible, if not more so. So I'll give you just a few silly examples. They may be in an interview. They may be in a medical emergency. They may be in a noisy environment and they haven't heard the phone. They may be in a work meeting and have put the phone on silent. They may be driving. But let's take this further yet. They may like you so much that they're too nervous to reply. They may be so self-conscious that they want to prepare themselves before they talk to you. This could go on forever, but you get the gist of it. You choose the reality that you experience, and you usually do this on automatic pilot. So you need to do 3 things. Number 1, disengage the autopilot and become aware of your automatic interpretations and limiting beliefs. Number 2, choose a different story, even if it feels unlikely and stupid at first. Number 3, challenge your existing beliefs and reprogram your mind. You can do this by conscious repetition, through guided meditations, through EFT, emotional freedom technique, or by listening to subliminal recordings and hypnosis. It doesn't matter how you do it. You can experiment with all these tools and find the one that you prefer or that works best for you. I suggest that you choose the one that you're least resistant to. It's not true that you cannot change your early programming unless you believe that that's true. And it's not difficult to change your story and your identity unless you believe that it is. So there may be more truth than previously thought to the old saying, life is what you make it. And if you think, well, I'm just delusional, I'm fooling myself by believing that life is better than it actually is, well, you've always been delusional. The physical dimension is an illusion, a projection of our subconscious mind. And you've always fooled yourself, but previously you were unaware and you were doing it by default. And now you're doing it consciously by creating the illusion that you prefer. Now, according to the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum physics, it doesn't even make sense to speak of reality before observation, as subatomic particles are merely probability waves without a specific position or momentum, without any specific characteristic until observed. So we don't observe an existing reality, we observe reality into existence. In the end, the choice is yours. You can keep recreating the life that you've been pre-programmed to live by your ancestors, or you can reclaim your power and start creating the life that you want to live. It can be as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. So this is it for today. I hope you found this content interesting and helpful. And if so, share, like, subscribe, and hit the bell option for updates on my future videos and podcasts. In any case, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful awakened day.